Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleke TV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. We have our regular and special guest today to discuss the matters arising with regard to Nigeria and the situation around it. His name is Barrister Austin Manta. He's a senior legal practitioner who is also a current affairs, not just political, but current affairs, general current affairs analyst. So we shall be talking about several topics today, but we'll be starting with something that a topic that is actually within his area of expertise, primary expertise. So Barrister, thank you for joining us once again today.
Thank you.
Yes, let's go delving straight into what we have. We are talking about the Supreme Court judgment that came up a couple of days ago. Yes, honestly, first that judgment was surprising to me in the sense that honestly I thought the law has been established. I didn't know that is still an argument even in the court that the local government is supposed to be separate from they are supposed to have an autonomy from the state government. A sort of course, that is why we have three arms of government in democracy. The federal government, state government, and local government. I don't know why local government has been an issue of contention, sort of because that is it's well spelled out. I don't even know why this kind of matter should get to the courts, sort of because by constitution we have local government, federal, state, and local government. So and the three of them, based on constitution or whatever, even me as a layman, understands that three of them should have autonomy with regard to administration of anything, general administration, financial administration, and other administration, sort of. So they should have their own autonomy. So, but the Supreme Court judgment, when I read that or whatever, when I heard the news, I was thrown aback. I said, "Whoa, I don't get it. Is this a bone of contention? Should it even be a bone of contention in the first place? If not the Nigerian issue with politicians, especially politicians who always want to, every little thing they want to take it to the courts, even when the law is clear about that issue, sort of." So, Barrister, what is your take on the Supreme Court, since the matter has an argument, and even now the governors are not happy about it, sort of course they will not be happy, but we'll go into the details of the politics behind it, sort of. But what is your opinion as a legal practitioner, a lawyer of very, very high pedigree? What do you think about the Supreme Court judgment?
Thank you very much, JIBRIN. The judgment is subject of discussion in Nigeria currently. I can straight away tell you that this judgment has nothing to do with the law, but it's purely a political arrangement. And it's unfortunate that the judiciary is being manipulated and used in this way. The job or task of the courts, including the Supreme Court, is to interpret the Constitution, not to make laws or to amend the Constitution. If the Constitution needs to be amended, it is the job of the National Assembly in conjunction with the state houses of assemblies. We have in Nigeria amended our Constitution, the 1999 Constitution. We have amended it on 5 occasions. We call it the first alteration, second alteration, third alteration, fourth alteration. Sorry
to cut you short. Please, for us to follow you, because the truth is, I didn't read the judgments. I only heard about the summary of the Supreme Court judgment. can you please, first and foremost, give us a kind of a summary breakdown of what the Supreme Court has said, what their judgment is, and what does the law say in your own opinion or interpretation of the law?
The Supreme Court said on the key aspects that the funds belonging to the local government can be sent to the local government or to the state, but that being that in all these years they have been sent to the states and has been misapplied, the Supreme Court will now order that they should henceforth be sent directly to the accounts of the local government. The other issue is that the federal government or the president can withhold funds meant for the local government to any state that has not conducted elections into local government. In other words, all the states that have caretaker committees running the local government, the federal government has authority to withhold the local government funds accruing to that state. These are the key issues in that judgment.
All right, sorry to cut you short. I just want, because I need to be asking some specific questions so that we'll be able to understand everything about this whole thing. Now, what does the law say about the first one you just mentioned, this issue of sending the money, transferring money directly to the local government? What does the law say about that?
There is absolutely no room to maneuver on that issue. The Constitution is very clear in Section 165 that each state should open a state local government joint account in which funds meant for the local government of the state will be channeled from the federation account. And even from the state public funds that should go to local government, all the funds should come into the state local government joint account.
Oh, so the status quo now, so the existing now is what the law says.
Existing is what the law says. It's one thing if the law is not satisfactory in operation. It's another for the Supreme Court to brazenly avoid the provisions of the Constitution and make an order that it is of no consequence. Even if we take it that, look, the states are preparing the local government funds by use of this joint account, the solution is not for the Supreme Court to nullify a constitutional provision, amend the constitutional provision. The right belongs to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution and replace that provision that is being abused.
Okay, now what I don't get it. Why do you think that the president or whosoever is involved in this is bringing politics into this? What is the politics in it? Can you explain to us what you think is the reason behind this manipulation of the Supreme Court?
What is surprising and scary, we have discussed on this program the assault on the judiciary, how the judiciary has become a tool in the hands of politicians. If you cast your mind back in 2004, when Tinubu was governor of Lagos and Obasanjo was president.
President, yes.
This same issue was litigated.
Yes.
By Lagos State against the federal government. Tinubu created 57 local governments out of the 21 local governments listed in the Constitution for Lagos State. And he was using the funds meant for the 21 local governments to run the additional 57 local governments. So Obasanjo as president now directed the Minister of Finance to withhold the allocation to Lagos State. And Lagos State took the matter to the Supreme Court. It will interest you to know that all justices of the Supreme Court were very clear. I have the judgment of the Supreme Court here. I can even read it to you. Kutigi, for instance, said that nowhere in the Constitution is the president expressly or impliedly authorized to suspend or withhold the statutory allocation payable to Lagos State pursuant to Section 162(5) of the Constitution on the ground of complaints made against Lagos State by the federal government in this action or on any ground at all. This, all the justices agreed that there's no provision in the Constitution that grants the president power to withhold allocation to the state for the benefit of the local governments on any ground. So what has changed? This is a judgment of a full panel of the Supreme Court. The Constitution, the provisions that were decided on at that time have not been changed. So how can you come today and now authorize the president to suspend or withhold allocation to the state that is meant for local governments?
That is to say that the Supreme Court is reversing itself.
It reversed itself. The first judgment was the correct one in accordance with the constitutional provisions. This one, on what basis was the judgment given? Because the provisions of Section 162(5) is still the same that was interpreted then and today. Nothing has changed. It's the Constitution that says funds meant for local government should be sent to the state by the federal government. So how can you, the Supreme Court, ignore the provisions of the Constitution and say the funds should be sent directly to the local government? Yeah, what happens to the constitutional provisions? And then the same Supreme Court say you cannot, you have no reason, there's no provision in the Constitution that authorizes you to suspend allocation of funds to the state or any reason. So how do you now come back and now direct the president to withhold allocation of funds to the state or to local governments where the democratically elected local governments are not in place?
All right. Honestly, me as a layman, I'm going to say something as a layman right now. Yes, the Constitution says what you say. You just interpreted the Constitution to us. Clearly, the Supreme Court has actually done. The present Supreme Court has done. Has really killed the spirit of the law in the Constitution. So there's no doubt about that. However, I think, honestly, in my own opinion, I think that law needs to be amended. That's just the truth. That part of the Constitution, just like you said, yeah, of course, it should go to National Assembly or whatever. That, while it is so, the Supreme Court ought to actually interpret it the way it is. Then if there is any change that is required or needed, whatever, it should go through the usual legitimate process instead of making the law. I don't know, the laws, just like you noted earlier, courts are not meant to make law. Their responsibility is to interpret it, not to make law. So honestly, I think that why we're arguing different things though, but in my own opinion, if we have three systems of government, if we have in a government, if we have three arms of government in democracy with equal responsibility, I don't know if the Constitution didn't give that equal responsibility to the local government as that of federal and state, that's where I have issue with. That's what if the area.
Let me make a correction there.
Yes.
Let me make a correction there.
Yes.
We do not have three arms of government structurally. We have three arms of government operationally. That is the federal, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Sure. But we do not have three arms of government structurally in the sense of local government, state, and federal government. Our Constitution says Nigeria is a federation of states and the FCT. It did not mention local government. Our federation is a federation of states and the Federal Capital Territory. So there's a two-tier structural arrangement of Nigeria by the Constitution. And that is where you will find in the Constitution, there's no provision. There are only few. Section 7 of the Constitution and which deals with the 774 local government, and provides that their functions, operations, finance, and administration should be guided by the laws of a state. So it is purely a state affair.
Okay.
It is even the funding of local government from federation account is to go to the state on behalf of the local government. So these things are there. Now, it is one thing, and we should be scared if the Supreme Court should start doing what it has done now so brazenly. We don't know where and how far they can go, because already now they are saying the next thing, we are hearing the government say the next thing is that INEC will now be mandated to conduct local government election. So they are going to use the same template, because under the Constitution, the responsibility to conduct state local government election is in the state independent local government, independent INEC, state INEC, SEAT. But already, because of this judgment, they want to set aside that constitution and make INEC, the national INEC, to conduct local government in the state. So how far will they go? Everybody, every right-thinking Nigerian should be scared. And I want to repeat, most of us noted and we're against the pilfering of local government funds by the state. And we desire something different. But it is not through the Supreme Court. It is through an amendment to the Constitution. Going through the Supreme Court is a dangerous shortcut which has no legal basis. It's a manipulation of the judiciary. And if people don't say anything now, we don't know how far it can go, because the presidency will do anything they want, irrespective of the provisions of the Constitution. They can just arrange with the Supreme Court and ignore, get a judgment and ignore any section of the Constitution and get what they want.
Yeah, what do you expect? They did some, I think they swore in some judges, right? Was it 2 days ago? Into appeal court or Supreme?
Court of Appeal.
Court of Appeal, yes. What do you expect? I've never seen a swearing in, a judicial swearing in that attracted the who and who. Virtually all the most important people in the hierarchy of government in Nigeria, they were there just swearing in of Court of Appeal judges or justices. For God's sake, what do you expect? The court, it basically means that the court has been the politics have been played through the courts those days. But in this government, this Tinubu's government, or since the election, 2023 election, honestly, it has become it goes beyond unprecedented. Yes, it's unprecedented, but it has become scary. I think that's the right word. Dangerously scary for us to look. Supreme Court, so when you hear Supreme Court, well, those days, I remember when we used to reverence justices from the Supreme Court or at the Supreme Court. Today, I don't know, those days, whatever they say makes it's technically, we consider it as law. Whatever they say, we hold Supreme Court justices in high esteem. But today, what do we have? We just have shenanigans as justices, for God's sake. Supreme Court used to be a very well-revered arm of the judiciary. I don't understand why we are going through this route, honestly. Like I said, going back to the swearing in, I watched the whole the who is who in Nigeria, the entire political brokers, they were there. What do you expect? That is to tell you everything about our judicial system. It is so sad, very, very sad. We have discussed it on this platform before. And I was of the opinion that the judiciary takes the largest blame in the problem we have in Nigeria. You argued on the contrary, but again, I understand why you argued that. But what we have today, look, the argument weighs on the same side, on all sides rather. But the truth is, when the buck stops on the father's table in a family, you have wife, husband, and children. When there is a problem, when there is a squabble in a home, yes, the blame will be big enough to go around. Some goes to the children, some goes to the husband, some to the wife. But at the end of the day, the buck stops at the husband's table. The responsibility, it behooves the husband to actually be decisive and do the right thing, the needful. The moment the husband fails to be courageous enough to do the right thing, the needful, the family falls apart. That's exactly, that was my point the day we were making this argument. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the adult in the room. Because the president and the executive and the judiciary, and the legislature, they are all politicians. The only ones that are professional are the judiciary, the judges and the justices. So they are supposed to be the adults in the room. When we have political issues, when we have disagreements, the adult in the room is supposed to be the father. The Supreme Court is the father of the judiciary, and by technicalities, they are the father of the nation, because they are core professionals, unlike the president that is the politician. And so they are the kind of de facto, I use the de facto father of the country. As such, they are supposed to be the adult in the room. Unfortunately, they have not only failed in being the adults in the room, they have become kids. They have become kids. That's so unfortunate, honestly. Very, very unfortunate that the Supreme Court our court is just getting worse and worse and worse. And look at, we're still talking about election. What do we expect from election? When the political elite are corrupt, the judiciary is corrupt. So what do you expect from, this is my problem. This is my problem with what we call democracy. If the courts are not working, the politicians, the several institutions, the government institutions are not working, and the institution that is supposed to call them to order, to organize the system, put everything in place, is also not working. Why? What is the essence of the democracy? You wanted to say something. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I say that we are in serious peril. Nigeria is totally on the precipice, and people are just looking. Some people are happy with the judgment without understanding the implications on our country. When Tinubu was governor, he resisted any attempt by the federal government to have influence in the local government in his state. But now he wants the federal government to have influence in local government because he's president now. He wants the federal government to literally control the local government. They have started the first move by direct funding to the account of each local government. The second move is to make INEC, which they control, conduct elections into those local governments. They want to create by fiat a three-tier structural system of government, which the Constitution has not created. Go to the National Assembly, let them amend the Constitution. If you want the local government to be a separate political entity in Nigeria, our present Constitution gives or leaves every affair of the local government under the states, and the states are to make laws. By doing this and proceeding even with the elections, they want to take away those provisions. But who says If the state are conducting elections with their state independent electoral commissions and manipulating it, who says that the national INEC, the federal INEC, is not doing the same thing? Are we satisfied with the conduct of elections of INEC at the federal level? So is it not a case of a pot calling the kettle black? It is just a political arrangement to have more powers of control, because we are not satisfied. We have no confidence in the INEC itself. So saying that the state INEC are not doing the right thing does not mean that federal INEC will do the right thing. We are just transferring the overlordship of the local government from the state to the federal government. That is not the intention. And the second point I want to make is that it is like putting the cart before the horse, emphasizing the issue of conducting elections in the local government, when the elections themselves are suspect. If we want to make the local government independent to a certain extent, we first have to reorganize the whole local government system in Nigeria. As it is today, it is of no benefit to the average people of the local government. They only go to share allocation whenever allocation comes and pay a few salaries and they go back. People, even staff, most of them stay at home. They don't go to work. They only come during the salary payment, collect and go back. So if we are serious, if it is not politics, if it is not an attempt to control local government and upstage the state governors, we should first try to reorganize constitutionally, reorganize the local government to make them functional, because as they are today, they are not functional. We organize and reorganize them, then we can talk of the funding that will come after the organization has been done. You are now talking of funding in a decrepit, corrupt, the most corrupt environment. You want to send funds without accountability. What do you think will happen if these funds now go direct to the local government? It's not going to benefit the people as they want to. They want Nigerians to believe. So again and again, I kept telling you on this platform, on this program, that unless and until we bear true allegiance to the Constitution, which is the ground law, which is the highest law in Nigeria, we will never move forward either politically or economically. Because when the Constitution makes clear provision and you just push it aside and say what you want, where will that end? This is almost like absolute power. Anything that the Constitution says, if Tinubu does not want, he will just arrange a judgment. And they will just give him the judgment that he wants.
Yeah,
this is dangerous.
Yeah, this is the reason why I call this what people call democracy as a sham. That's just the truth. It's all shambolic. It's just, to me, democracy we are practicing in the first place. It's a borrowed way of governance. That is not who we are. And secondly, we are not even practicing it the way, like I said, we always copy. We copy sometimes. Some things we copy so many things from the West, but we don't even administer whatever we copy in the right way. The way the people will copy it, administer. We don't do things the right way, or sort of. So, what is the essence of democracy? Why do we need democracy if we cannot actually? Democracy is about law, adhering to the law, not decrees, not dictatorship. But what we have today, just like you said, in fact, in the history of Nigeria's democracy, we've never had a president holding so influential, so having the National Assembly firmly in his hands. It has never been this. The National Assembly does this. What we used to call National Assembly as rubber stamp years back, but this is this Bola Tinubu National Assembly. This what's his name? Abbas and Akpabio's National Assembly. This is the epitome of control of the legislature by the president. It is the epitome of, when we say control, rubber stamp. This is the real epitome of rubber stamp. That is just it, unfortunately. And now he's already achieving the same things on the judiciary. This is unbelievable. That judiciary that is supposed to be the father of the nation by default, the father of the nation now is becoming a rubber stamp. This is not a political body, but for God's sake, this is a professional body becoming a rubber stamp. In a democratic dispensation, it is dangerously scary, honestly. And this is the reason why I've always advocated for, what is the difference? With the military is even better now. Under military, we never suffer this kind of poverty and deprivations. Under military, we never suffered even this kind of flagrant disrespect of the rule of law. That is just it. So tell me, who is that person that is telling me that democracy is the best form of government? For God's sake.
Let me add something here. When we first heard that the Attorney General of the Federation has filed a suit against the 36 states on this issue, I told a friend that I suspect something, because the law is as clear as daylight.
That's what I said earlier.
I told a friend here in the office that, look, I am suspecting some corroboration somewhere, because these issues are constitutionally provided and they are in the plainest of languages. And there's already a Supreme Court decision on this. So how do these people now come, Fagbemi now come to take the matter to the Supreme Court? So I told him, let it not be that an arrangement has been done behind the scenes.
Yeah, obviously, it has been done.
Judgment. And with the present judgment, it appears that what I was fearing has happened.
Of course, what do you expect? Tinubu is everything bad. He advocated for protests so many years ago, I think 2012 or 14, and today he's against it as a president. So many years as a governor, as the governor in Lagos State, then he fought the government to a stupor, to a standstill, government of Obasanjo then, over the same issue. Now he's the president, he's reversing himself. This is what, when we talk of hypocrisy as politicians, honestly, it can never be defined better than what is really happened. Hypocrisy can never be defined better than what Tinubu has stood on or stood for all these years. That is just it.
They have reacted immediately. The Attorney General has said the judgment will be carried out immediately. And I remember back then when the Supreme Court gave judgment in Tinubu's time, the Supreme Court said, look, the local governments, 57 local governments you have created are inchoate. You cannot bring them into life until the constitutional process has been fully complied with. That's the National Assembly amending the Constitution to include your new local government. The next day after the judgment, back then, and I still remember it very well, he mounted an open road vehicle and drove around Lagos, saying that no power on earth can stop the 57 local governments from coming into operation. And he continued with the 50, he just changed the name to local development councils, and continue funding them from the local government funds meant for the 21 states. He completely ignored the judgment of the Supreme Court that said this local government cannot be brought into fruition. But today, a day after the Supreme Court gave this judgment, they are already threatening the state governments. They are saying the judgment from July allocation, they are going to cut allocation to about 16 or 18 states that have caretaker committees running the local governments.